Hello there, my name is Ismaus and welcome to a beginner tutorial series that we are going to be doing here on Blender Money. So this is a scene we're going to be trying to attempt in this tutorial series so that it can get you the basics of working with Blender. This was a tutorial request by one of my patrons, so yeah, if you want to request something like this, you can also become a patron and we will be doing that. So let's get started by doing this building, just the building, and then in other parts we can go on and build on top of that. Yes, so yeah, I'll delete the default cube, and so this is a beginner series, but it's not the basics beginner series where I'm talking about the interface. We're just going to be looking at the tools we are using to achieve that, and then explaining the tool that I'm using when I use it. So I'm not just going to go over and talk about each layout one by one. I'm just going to talk about the things we are using to achieve what we're doing here. So let's begin by creating the floor, and what we're going to do is add a mesh and trace out the walls, how the walls are going to look like. So let's use the shortcut Shift A. Let me turn on my shortcuts here, so hopefully they work this time. So you can see the shortcuts I'm using here. So Shift A to add a mesh. We're going to trace out the layout of the building and then extrude the edges up so that we get that building. So I'm going to scale this in the x-axis, maybe something like by 3 meters by these 3 boxes here, so that we can fill these 3 boxes. And to do that correctly or incrementally, you can hold on, you can scale on the x-axis and then hold on Control to kind of increment your values by, I think it's 10 units, something like that, because each unit here, each square here, big square is 1 meter, so one small square I think is about 10 centimeters. So I'm not going to be super accurate with the measurements. I just want to get the building here. So let me also scale this on the y-axis, just estimating the scale here. So another thing I usually like to do in my tutorials is turn on random colors in the overlay here, so that you can see, so that we have a different shade for every object we have in our scene. That is easier to identify the different objects we have in our scenes, especially if you are new to Blender. So now let's go to edit mode to enable us to add in a few loops. That way we can extrude these faces up. So I see this building has about, I don't know, 3 or 4 rooms. I think there are 3 rooms. So let's go into edit mode, maybe into wireframe. So if you hold on Z, you get this pie menu that can let you navigate between the different shading modes. So we want to go to wireframe so that we can see the different edges easily. So I want to add a loop around here so that I can extrude this room up, or create a section for these rooms. So Control R, and you just move your cursor to one of the edges. So if you want to cut a loop around here, you can just Control R and move your cursor next to that edge, and you can see we have added a loop there. If you want it on this side, you just move it to that side. So let me add a loop there, and then you just left click to confirm that, and also want a loop here, Control R to get that, confirm to click, confirm to. Let me move this above the grid so that you can easily see what we have done. You can see we have those edges. So if you use the shortcuts 1, you can switch between vertex mode, 2 for edge mode, and 3 for face mode. Let me make sure that this is recording. Maybe move it on my second screen here, just to have some peace of mind. So you can see this is going to be room 1, room 2, and room 3, and this is this area here. So we can, instead of, you can extrude this using E to push them up, but you're going to have this issue here where you have these holes here, and you can easily fix them by just going into edge mode. I'm using 2 to switch to that, and select this edge and this edge here, and then hit F to fill in that, and then hit F, that and that, so that you have that flow for yourself. But I don't want to do it that way. Then there is an easiest way to do this. So if I create the layout first, then I can go to edge mode, select all the walls I want to have. So there is this wall here, so that would be that wall, and then the back wall, this wall, and then this side wall, and then we have this room. Okay, I think we should have another extrusion for this room here. So if I select these edges, hit E and then Y to extrude in the Y direction, I can add this shade as for that, and then this wall here should extend like that, and then the back wall. Then we have an extension for this room. I think we have to, let me see what's going on. Okay, yeah, so then this wall here that extends up to here, and then this room like that, and then we have this wall here, which would be that. I think there is an inside wall there as well, so we can select that wall and maybe a wall there. Then I can extrude these like that. But I see they are going to again create that gap, but I only want to extrude the edges, so I can hold off extruding these middle edges. That kind of, when we select them, they select a face that leads us into extruding an entire face instead of just the edges. So I'm just going to select those. That way you don't have any face selected. And now if I extrude this, you can see I'm extruding just the walls. Now you can have them go to any height you want, and, but I'm okay with that, with this here. So what I'm also going to do is separate the floor from the walls. Now the way you do that, you just go to edit mode, then go to face mode. You can either use this menu here or just hit 3 to change to face mode and select all the faces we have. If you have those selected, now you can hit P to get this separate menu to separate by selection or by material or by loose parts. Since we only have selection, we don't have materials or loose parts. Loose parts is when you have a face separate from the rest of the faces. You can see all these faces are connected to, they're all connected, but except this face. So this would be the loose part, but we don't want that. We just want to select the floor and separate it by loose parts. So sorry, by selection. Now you can see, because it's a different object now, it's given a different color, just to make it different from the different objects. And now we are good with the walls. So, but they're too thin, they don't have any thickness. So to give them some thickness, I'm just going to use modifiers. Modifiers are just a way to help you get more control over your modeling. So it's just just think of it as tools for making your modeling easier. So we're going to be using modifiers, and you can find modifiers under this rake icon. So there are different types of objects in Blender. As you can see, already we have three different types of objects. We have lights, we have cameras, and we have meshes. So if you go to the menu, Shift A, or go under Add, which is the same menu you access with Shift A, you can see the different types of objects, and they are all categorized differently. We have meshes, curves, surfaces, metaballs, but mostly in this series we're going to be looking at meshes mostly, and maybe some curves. So yeah, different objects have different modifiers. So if I added say a curve here, let me move it up, you can see we get different modifiers, and if I select a mesh, you get different modifiers. So you should take note of that. If you want a modifier and you go to the modifiers and you don't see it, make sure you're selecting the right object. So you can see if I select a light, they don't even have any modifiers included to them. Same with cameras, they don't have modifiers. So if you want a specific modifier and you don't see it in your list, make sure that you're selecting the right type of object. So we're going to use some modifiers here, and the modifier we're going to be using is the one that will help us get some thickness here without extruding, which can be a little bit hard and not that efficient. So if we go to the modifiers, again, it's the icon under, that is, this is the rake icon here. We can go under add modifiers, and we can see a list of modifiers, and the modifier we want to look at is the solidify modifier. This can give you some thickness. Let me turn on another overlay called cavity. This highlights the edges just a bit so that we can easily see them, and you can see what we have. So the solidify modifier gives us thickness, and you can see in the modifiers, they have these settings here, or icons here. If you turn this off. One is for rendering. If you have this off like that, it means that your modifier will not be rendered. If you have this on or off, it just indicates whether your modifier is visible in your viewport or not. So yeah, but you can see that our walls are not even. You can see this edge here is kind of split. So a lot of things in modifier a lot of things in Blender work depend on the direction of your normals, and let's talk about normals just a bit here. So if I add a plane here and go to edit mode, I can go under the overlays here and turn on normals here. This is basically the direction your faces are facing. So you can see that this face is facing up, but we also have the back side. So it's basically telling you where the front side is and the back side is. So if you have those normals under overlays here enabled, it can show you in edit mode where that face is facing. So a lot of things in Blender work depending on the direction of the normals. And in our modifier here, this solidify modifier, you can see that we even have an option to flip normals. So it depends heavily on the direction of your normals, or the normals of your mesh. And you can see if we go to edit mode while having these normals setting turned on, you can see where our normals are facing. So and basically how the modifier works is that it adds thickness to the direction to where the faces are facing. So let me redo this again and see, and just explain it to you here using this mesh here. So if I add a modifier here, a solidify modifier here, you can see the extrusion is in the opposite direction of where the face is facing. Our faces are facing. You can see if I increase the thickness, you can see it's being added to the opposite of our face. And if I flip the normals, then it should be in the opposite direction, although I'm not sure why this is not working. You should flip the normals, but it's not working for some reason. There are sometimes bugs you might experience, but just think of it like the thickness will be added to the opposite of your face. And you can also see the direction of your faces by going under overlays in object mode and turning on face orientation. This should show you the direction of your faces, and you can see the red side just shows you the back side, and the blue side shows you the blue side shows you the front facing side. I think this is we are seeing only red because we have flipped normals here. So you can see that. And let me first turn off the orientation here. And you can see this solidify modifier added the extrusion or the thickness in the opposite direction this side, and because the face the normal for this face is facing this side, it also pushed the thickness this side. That's why we see that there is this kind of bend. So we need to recalculate normals so that all these faces have their normals facing the right direction, in the same direction. So if you go under, I think it's under mesh normals, yeah, under mesh in edit mode, mesh normals, you can flip or recalculate normals. So usually what you want to do is recalculate normals so that it can recalculate the normals to face the same direction. So if I do this, you can see now my normals are facing the right direction, and we have the thickness set correctly. But you also see that the thickness is not the same for these walls, and the reason for that is that this solidify modifier has trouble kind of getting the right thickness, especially if these walls are connected like this. So if you want to have the same thickness all the way for all walls, what you need to do is separate these walls that are connected. Every wall that is connected in this form, not in this form here, but when you have a point like this where you have more than two edges connected. So you can see we have one edge, 2 and 3 connected at the same place, at the same vertex. The solidify modifier has trouble deciding where the face should face, and it kind of creates a few problems. So what you can do is separate this object And the way you do that, and separate the faces into their own face, or into their own loose parts. So if you go under, I think it's under, I'm used to shortcuts a lot, so that's why you see I'm struggling to find the menus here. I think it's under, yeah, so under mesh, you can find the shortcut, the option called split, and the shortcut is Y. So if you hit Y, or this option here, it will split this mesh into its own, the selection into its own uh, selection, I guess, or loose part. So that is no longer connected to this here. And now you can see that we are not getting that issue here that we had here, and this wall is now separate. So you can see also, if we go to top mode and maybe in wireframe, you see that the thickness here is the walls are not straight around some areas. So if you want to have them straight, you just go under the solidify modifier options, and you should check even thickness to straighten them. You can also recalculate your normals again, so that we have even thickness for the walls like that. And now you can see we have our walls. Before we end this part, let me add the windows and all the sections we want to add. So we are missing a wall here, so what I can do is just go into face mode by hitting 3 on my keyboard. My shortcuts have turned off for some reason. So by hitting, let me turn off this here, some of this here. Basically what this does, this last icon, it enables, it lets you see the modifiers in edit mode, but if you don't have that, it doesn't show you the faces of the modifiers that have been added by the modifier in edit mode. So but that usually makes it harder to see what faces you're selecting. You can see I'm seeing these extra faces that I have, but I don't know if I'm explaining it correctly. If I'm explaining it easier for you, but basically don't have this turned on, otherwise it's going to make it harder for you to select the faces you want to select, because when I have it turned off, I know that if I want to select this face, I just select the exact face I want to select. But if I have it on, you can see now I have these extra faces that kind of give the illusion that they are selectable when they are not. So I can't select this top face, but it's there, and it makes it seem like I can select it. So, but if I don't have that enabled, I only see the faces I'm able to select. I think that's a better explanation. So let's add this window and maybe this wall here. So to do that, I'm just going to duplicate this face using Shift D to duplicate that face, and you can see now I have a separate face from that. So I can move that in the Y direction until I have it aligned with that wall there. And now for the window, I can just add a loop here, Control R to add a loop there, and then Control R to add a loop there. So I also now I want this to be split, this edge to be split into two faces, into a face that I can select and then delete. So I'll just use the shortcut Control B to bevel that. You also have the tool, the beveling tool here. So if I select this bevel tool, it does give me the same option. So you can either choose to use the shortcuts here. So most of the shortcuts I'm going to be using are also accessible under here. So you can see the extrusion is there. The extrusion option is also there, and this also depends on the selection tool you have. So now, right now we have the edge selection, and that's why we are only able to extrude edges. And again, we're creating the same problem here, where we have a vertex being shared by more than one edge, by more than two edges. That's why you see we're having this issue. So if you wanted a wall like this, but you don't want that problem there, you can just hit Y to separate it into its own wall, so that you have the same even thickness all over the wall. So let's again add a loop here, and then Control B, or use the bevel tool here to bevel that into a face. And I'm also going to select this edge loop here. You can select this using Shift to select all the edges like that, or to select multiple edges, or you can use Control to select say an edge like this, and then you select an edge like this, and then then hold Control and then select the other edge to select all the edges between the first selection and the last selection. Or you can use Alt Select to select the entire loop. You can also find those options under, I think, if you select a vertex like this, you can go under Edge, and sorry, you can go under select and then select loop, or you can select rings. Did I select rings? Select loops, rings, and select a row of edges like that. So I'm just going to use the shortcuts, but you can find the same options under select, under the select menu. So Alt to select that, and then Control B, which is the same as using this tool here to bevel this edge loop. And now we have this window. Since we already have this selection, I can move that up. But if you don't have the selection, maybe you deselected that, you can just use Alt select at select. Make sure you are in first mode at this time. Alt select to select that, or again you can just go under the select menu, select loops, select edge loops. I think that will only select edges, but I want to select the entire loop to move it up and down. So I can make sure that this edge here is going to be our edge for this top window, I don't know, door or something. So now I can delete this, maybe select this edge loop, push it down a bit, and then delete this face. Since we have this solidify modifier on, you can see it gives our window the thickness already. Now we can also do the same here, Control R to add a loop, or use the the loop cut option here. You can see you can select that loop cut tool to add loops where you want them to. So I can add a loop here and maybe add a loop there, and then move them apart. Again, using Alt, selecting the loop will select the entire edge loop like that. Now I can select these faces and delete them to have that wall. And we need a door here, so Control R, Control B to bevel that. There are a lot of tools you can use, or a lot of options you can use for this, but just select what you think works best. So I'm just going to move this so that we have the door here, delete that, and we have that like that. So if we go into render settings and turn on ambient occlusion, you can even increase the factor by 2 so that you have stronger ambient occlusion like that. You can see we have the layout of our building. So maybe I think this wall doesn't extend as far as this wall, so I can add a loop around here, yes, around here, and I delete this face so that we have the same layout as this. So in the next tutorial, we'll add in a few more details, maybe this flow here and those bars, and see how that goes. Thank you for watching.